Adolf and Rudolf Dassler grew up in the small town of Herzogenaurach, Germany, where their family lived a modest life. Their father, a skilled shoemaker, ran a small workshop where the brothers spent much of their childhood. In this workshop, they learned the trade that would shape their future. The brothers were very close, and it was here that their passion for sports began to grow. They both loved football, and soon they started dreaming of making shoes that would help athletes perform better. The town was quiet, and the Dassler family was known for their craftsmanship. As the brothers grew older, they spent hours in their father's shop, experimenting with different designs for sports shoes. Adolf was focused on the details, always perfecting the shape and feel of every shoe. Rudolf, on the other hand, was driven by ambition and wanted to take their business beyond the small town. Their shared passion for sports kept them connected, but their differing personalities would set the stage for future conflicts. While Adolf worked meticulously on improving the shoe designs, Rudolf began looking for ways to expand their small business. He was outgoing and had big dreams of turning their company into a brand that athletes everywhere would trust. But Adolf was cautious. He believed that quality came first, and he wanted to take his time to perfect each product. They both believed in the power of sport, but their visions for how to achieve success began to drift apart. Despite their differences, the brothers were still a strong team. In the early years, they supported each other in their pursuit of making the best shoes. They both understood that sports were growing in popularity, and they wanted to be a part of it. But as their shoes gained attention from athletes, the pressure of growing the business started to take its toll. The seeds of conflict were planted in these early days, although neither brother fully realized it yet. By the late 1920s, the Dassler brothers' shoes had gained local recognition. They were known for their quality and craftsmanship, and athletes were starting to wear their shoes in competitions. Word spread quickly, and soon they were supplying shoes for athletes in other parts of Europe. The brothers were on the verge of something big, but their growing success also brought new challenges. It was becoming harder to ignore their differences in how to run the company. As their business grew, the bond between the two brothers began to weaken. They had always been close, but now they were beginning to see things differently. The dream they had shared seemed to be pulling them in opposite directions. Despite the growing tension, they were still united in one goal: to create shoes that would give athletes the edge they needed to succeed. But this goal would soon be overshadowed by their conflicting visions for the future. In 1924, the Dassler brothers took a bold step forward and officially founded Gebr. Dassler Schuhfabrik. It was their first serious attempt to turn their passion for sports and shoes into a real business. With just a small team working in their father's workshop, they set out to create shoes that were different from anything on the market. Their early designs focused on giving athletes better grip, speed, and comfort during competition. The brothers were determined to make their mark in the world of sports. Their first major breakthrough came when they designed a pair of shoes specifically for track and field athletes. These shoes featured spikes on the soles, which helped athletes gain better traction during races. This innovative design quickly caught the attention of local athletes, who began to wear the shoes in competitions. As word spread, more athletes from around Europe started taking notice of the Dassler brand. This was just the beginning, but the brothers could already see their dreams starting to take shape. As demand grew, so did the brothers' ambition. They started expanding their business, hiring more workers, and increasing production. By the early 1930s, the company was no longer just a local business. It had started reaching athletes in other parts of Europe. Despite this success, Rudolf's drive to grow the business quickly started to clash with Adolf's focus on maintaining quality. While Adolf wanted to take things slowly and ensure each shoe was perfect, Rudolf was eager to sign bigger contracts and expand rapidly. The brothers' differing approaches soon became a source of tension. Rudolf wanted to increase production and get their shoes on as many athletes as possible. But Adolf believed that focusing on quality was the key to long-term success. These disagreements started to strain their relationship, but they still managed to work together for the time being. The business was growing, and the brothers knew they were on the verge of something big. In 1936, the brothers had their first major international success when they provided shoes for athletes at the Berlin Olympics. One of their shoes was worn by Jesse Owens, who went on to win 4 gold medals, making history in front of the world. This was a huge moment for the Dassler brand, and it gave them international recognition. It was proof that their shoes could make a difference on the world stage. However, even as they celebrated this success, the cracks in their relationship were growing wider. The Olympic success was bittersweet. While the brothers enjoyed the attention their shoes were getting, they were also feeling the weight of their growing differences. Adolf wanted to focus on the quality of the shoes, while Rudolf's ambition for growth continued to drive him forward. The brothers were on the cusp of greatness, but the tension between them was starting to pull them in opposite directions. By the early 1930s, the Dassler brothers had begun to revolutionize the world of sports footwear. Their shoes were gaining a reputation for being the best in the market, and their designs were ahead of their time. The brothers introduced soccer cleats with metal studs, which provided players with better traction and control on the field. This innovation changed the way athletes played the game, giving them a clear advantage. The brothers' growing success in sports was undeniable. Their shoes were becoming a standard in track and field, and their designs were quickly becoming popular in the world of football as well. But the success brought new challenges. The company was expanding rapidly, and the pressure to keep up with demand was taking its toll on their relationship. Their differing visions of what the company should become were becoming impossible to ignore. While Adolf wanted to focus on perfecting their existing designs, Rudolf was pushing for more innovation and faster growth. The pressure to grow the business weighed heavily on both brothers. As more athletes wore their shoes, they began to realize just how big their potential could be. But they were also realizing that their dreams and ambitions were not aligned. While Adolf wanted to maintain the integrity of their products, Rudolf wanted to push for even bigger contracts, more athletes, and faster expansion. This tension grew over time and set the stage for a dramatic split that would change the future of the company. Their breakthrough in the world of soccer came when they introduced the screw-in studs, a feature that revolutionized the sport. These studs allowed players to adjust their cleats for different conditions, giving them more control and flexibility. It was another example of the Dassler brothers' ability to innovate and set themselves apart from their competitors. However, the growing tension between them was becoming harder to ignore. By the late 1940s, the company was at a crossroads. The brothers had reached the peak of success, but their relationship was falling apart. Their conflicting ideas on how to grow the business were no longer something they could work through. The company was now divided. Adolf's Adidas and Rudolf's Puma, and the legacy of their shared dream would soon be separated forever. The company that once brought them together had now become the reason for their split. The growing tensions between them over the years had reached their breaking point, and it was clear that they could no longer work together. The world of sports footwear would be forever changed by their innovations, but their personal rivalry would also create two of the world's most powerful brands. Adolf and Rudolf Dassler were two very different people, and their contrasting personalities played a huge role in their eventual split. Adolf was calm, methodical, and focused on perfection. He believed that quality should never be sacrificed, and he was willing to take the time needed to ensure that every shoe was made to his exacting standards. He was the quiet genius behind the design, always working behind the scenes to create something that would last. Rudolf, on the other hand, was charismatic, outgoing, and driven by the desire to expand quickly. He was always looking for the next big opportunity and believed that in order to grow, they needed to take risks. His ambition to grow the company quickly often put him at odds with Adolf, who preferred to move at a slower, more deliberate pace. While both brothers had their strengths, their different approaches to business would eventually cause the rift that led to their split. Despite these differences, there was a respect between the two. They both shared the same dream, creating the best shoes for athletes. But over time, their differing visions of how to achieve that dream began to strain their relationship. Adolf wanted to focus on the craftsmanship, while Rudolf wanted to focus on expansion. This tension came to a head when they couldn't agree on the direction of the company. The rift between them didn't happen overnight. It was a slow burn, with each disagreement adding fuel to the fire. But as the company grew, so did their ambition. What once was a partnership based on a shared love of sport was now a rivalry between two brothers, each with their own vision of what the future should look like. Their differences in personality and ambition were now impossible to reconcile. As the years passed, their bond began to weaken. What once was a powerful partnership was now a business divided by pride and ambition. The tension between the brothers was no longer something they could ignore, and their relationship began to deteriorate. They were no longer working together. They were competing against each other. The split that seemed inevitable was now a reality. By the end of the 1940s, the brothers were no longer partners. The dream they had once shared was now split between two companies, Adidas and Puma. Their rivalry would go on to shape the world of sports footwear. But it was a rivalry born from a deep personal divide that neither brother could mend. Their bond had been broken by ambition, and their empire would now stand divided. By the early 1940s, the Dassler brothers' dream was beginning to feel like a distant memory. What had once been a perfect partnership was now crumbling under the weight of their growing differences. The tension between Adolf and Rudolf had been building for years, but by now it was impossible to ignore. Adolf had always been the quieter, more meticulous brother, dedicated to creating the best shoes possible, while Rudolf was brimming with ambition. He wanted to expand quickly, take risks, and be the first to capture new markets. Their visions for the future of the company were beginning to clash. Adolf was comfortable with steady, methodical growth. He believed that perfection required patience and time. Rudolf, on the other hand, believed in the power of bold moves and aggressive expansion. He was always looking for ways to make the company bigger, faster. While Adolf focused on improving their products and maintaining the company's reputation for quality, Rudolf pushed for more contracts, more athletes, more markets. Their differences in approach were not just business, they were deeply personal. Each brother began to question the other's commitment and vision for the company. Their disagreements reached a boiling point during a critical time in their company's growth. Adolf's insistence on focusing on quality often clashed with Rudolf's demand for rapid expansion. For example, when the brothers were offered a deal with a major sports organization, Rudolf jumped at the opportunity, eager to sign on quickly. Adolf was hesitant, fearing that the company might spread itself too thin. As the tension grew, their professional differences began to bleed into their personal relationship. What had once been a shared dream now felt like two competing visions that could no longer coexist. The more Rudolf pushed for growth, the more Adolf dug in his heels. There was no middle ground. The brothers had become like oil and water, unable to mix. And while the company continued to grow in reputation, the emotional distance between the two of them was only widening. Their meetings were becoming more strained, their conversations more heated. Every decision was a battleground. The business they had built together now felt like a battlefield where only one vision could win. Behind their professional divide, there was a deep sense of betrayal. Adolf felt that Rudolf was no longer respecting the principles they had founded their company on, principles that had always placed quality over everything else. Rudolf, meanwhile, felt that Adolf's cautious approach was holding the company back. It became clear that no matter how much success they achieved, the brothers could no longer work together. Their relationship had become a ticking time bomb. As the pressure of running a successful business combined with their personal animosities, it became increasingly clear that their paths were no longer aligned. Their once strong bond was fraying, and both knew deep down that the future of Gebr. Dassler Schuhfabrik could no longer include them both. The time for a decision had come, and it seemed inevitable that the brothers would soon go their separate ways. World War II changed everything for the Dassler brothers. As the war raged across Europe, it had a profound effect on their business. In 1939, Germany was at war, and the Dassler factory, like many others, was forced to adapt to the needs of the Nazi regime. The brothers shifted their focus to producing shoes for the military, including boots for soldiers. The war effort took priority, and the factory became a part of the war machine, with Adolf and Rudolf doing their part to contribute to Germany's military goals. However, the war also placed immense strain on the brothers. Adolf and Rudolf were faced with decisions that tested their moral and ethical boundaries. The factory relied on forced labor, as many factories did during the war. Workers from occupied countries were brought in to work under harsh conditions. Adolf was deeply troubled by this and wrestled with the morality of using forced labor, but he did what was necessary to keep the factory running. Rudolf, on the other hand, was more willing to cooperate with the demands of the regime, seeing it as a way to keep the company alive. The war brought more than just moral questions. It also brought logistical challenges. The brothers were forced to work with new materials and face restrictions on the production of civilian goods. The factory's output slowed, and tensions between Adolf and Rudolf grew as they struggled to keep their business afloat. Rudolf, ever the opportunist, pushed for ways to expand the business, even as resources became scarce. Adolf, meanwhile, tried to maintain a sense of stability, worried about the long-term effects of the war on their company's future. As the war dragged on, the brothers found themselves drifting further apart. The emotional toll of the war, combined with the pressures of maintaining a successful business, led to a sense of isolation between them. They were no longer working side by side as they had before. Each had his own ideas about how to navigate the future, and their trust in one another began to erode. The war, which had forced them to make difficult decisions, also served to highlight the growing divide between their personal and professional lives. After the war ended in 1945, the brothers returned to a world that was drastically different. Their business, which had once been thriving, now faced new challenges. The factory was damaged during the war, and the global economy was struggling to recover. The brothers had to rebuild, but the foundation of their partnership had already crumbled. They were no longer the same two men who had started the company. The war had changed them, and the strain it placed on their relationship left deep scars. The end of the war marked a turning point for the Dassler brothers. The company was no longer just about shoes, it was about survival. And for Adolf and Rudolf, it was no longer about working together. Their relationship had been stretched to the breaking point by the war, and it seemed that the only way forward was for them to part ways. The time to make a choice was fast approaching. The final split between Adolf and Rudolf Dassler came in 1949, after years of mounting tension and disagreement. By then, it had become clear that they could no longer work together. The company that had once been their shared dream was now the source of their animosity. The brothers had been drifting apart for years, and after the war, they could no longer ignore their differences. Rudolf, always the more ambitious of the two, was determined to strike out on his own. He believed that Adidas, under Adolf's control, was becoming stagnant. He wanted to start something new, something bolder. With the post-war economy on the mend, Rudolf saw an opportunity to create his own brand that would rival Adidas. And so, in 1949, he founded Puma, a direct competitor to his brother's company. Adolf, of course, was not blind to what was happening. He had always been cautious about growing the business too quickly, but he had no choice but to move forward. He officially rebranded their original company as Adidas. maintaining control over the brand and its legacy. What had once been a single-family company was now two bitter rivals, each with their own vision of success. The brothers' separation was final, and there was no going back. The breakup wasn't just a business decision, it was deeply personal. The bond between the brothers, once unbreakable, had now been severed. There were no longer any shared meetings or conversations about their vision for the future. They were no longer partners, they were competitors. Each knew that the other's success would be a direct challenge to their own. The once shared dream had become a source of pain, and the brothers' rivalry would soon become the stuff of legend. What followed was a bitter, lifelong feud. The brothers, though successful in their own right, could never escape the shadow of their past. They retained deep bitterness toward each other, and even as their respective companies grew, their relationship remained fractured. Their rivalry was not just about business, it was personal. The brothers, who had once worked side by side to build something great, were now bitter enemies, and nothing could mend the rift that had torn them apart. The psychological toll of the split on both Adolf and Rudolf was immense. Though both went on to build successful companies, neither brother ever truly moved on from the fallout. For Adolf, the breakup represented a failure to keep his family together, and he would carry the weight of that failure with him for the rest of his life. He had always been committed to creating the best shoes for athletes, but now his brother was competing against him. The personal betrayal cut deep. For Rudolf, the creation of Puma was a way to prove himself. He had always felt that he was the more ambitious and entrepreneurial of the two. But now he was faced with the reality that success would come at the expense of his family bond. Even as Puma thrived, he could never escape the shadow of Adidas or his brother. His success, though monumental, was always tinged with the knowledge that it had come at the cost of his brother's trust. The two brothers, despite their business success, were haunted by their split. The bitterness between them was never fully resolved. They rarely spoke after the break, and the animosity only grew as their companies became global giants. The public rivalry between Adidas and Puma became symbolic of their fractured relationship. The world saw their companies competing in every arena, but the brothers knew the truth. Their real competition was personal, not professional. Both men carried the scars of their division. Adolf found some solace in the fact that Adidas became the dominant brand in the sportswear industry, but the personal loss of his brother lingered. Rudolf, while successful in his own right, could never fully escape the feeling that his success was incomplete without reconciliation. The psychological impact of the breakup was not just about business, it was about family, pride, and loss. After the painful split with his brother Rudolf, Adolf Dassler faced the daunting task of rebuilding not just a business, but a brand. In 1949, with determination and a clear vision, he rebranded his company as Adidas, a name that would become synonymous with athletic excellence. This was a fresh start, and Adolf was committed to creating a brand that would represent more than just sports shoes. It would be a symbol of quality, innovation, and performance. The iconic three-stripe logo was introduced as part of this rebranding. Designed to be both functional and symbolic, the stripes were meant to improve the shoe's grip and stability. This simple yet powerful design would become Adidas's hallmark, seen on athletes' shoes for decades to come. But the stripes weren't just a marketing tool. They reflected Adolf's philosophy of making products that were not only beautiful, but highly functional. In the immediate post-war years, Adolf knew that to make Adidas stand out, he had to focus on athletes. They were the heart of his business, and he understood that building trust with athletes was essential. He poured everything he had into designing shoes that gave athletes the best possible performance on the field. His meticulous attention to detail became a trademark, and soon, Adidas shoes were gaining a reputation for being the most reliable on the market. Adolf's desire to create the best footwear for athletes was not just about building a business, it was deeply personal. He saw Adidas as a way to prove himself after the loss of his brother and the division of the company. Every new shoe design, every athlete that wore Adidas, was a step toward redemption for Adolf. His ambition wasn't just about profits, it was about making his mark on the world and honoring the legacy of their family's craftsmanship. The early days of Adidas were a struggle, with limited resources and a world still recovering from the war. But Adolf's commitment to quality paid off. Slowly, athletes began to notice. Word of mouth spread, and soon Adidas shoes were being worn by top athletes, starting with local German teams and slowly reaching international levels. By focusing on performance and building a brand that athletes could trust, Adidas began its climb toward greatness. But this journey wasn't without its challenges. The memory of his brother's company, Puma, was a constant shadow over Adolf. Every success Adidas had was a reminder of the partnership he'd lost. But for Adolf, the creation of Adidas wasn't just about business. It was about creating something that stood on its own, something that represented his own vision and drive. Adidas's breakthrough moment came in 1936 during the Berlin Olympics, where a young American sprinter named Jesse Owens would wear Adidas shoes to make history. Owens, who won 4 gold medals, wore a pair of specially designed Adidas spikes that provided him with better grip and speed. This partnership wasn't just about outfitting an athlete. It was about making a statement. Adolf Dassler was determined to prove that Adidas shoes could help athletes achieve greatness on the world stage. Owens' victory at the Berlin Olympics became a defining moment for Adidas. His success in those shoes wasn't just a win for him, it was a win for Adidas. For Adolf, it was the ultimate validation. He had believed in the power of his shoes to enhance performance, and Owens' triumph proved it to the world. This partnership, though not formalized in a contract at the time, marked the beginning of Adidas's global rise. This moment also set a precedent for Adidas's future strategy. Adolf realized that the best way to promote his brand was through athletes, particularly those at the top of their sport. The success of Owens in Adidas shoes made clear that athletes were not just customers. They were Adidas's most valuable partners. As Owens' fame grew, so did the visibility of Adidas, paving the way for future sponsorships with other elite athletes. Owens, in many ways, was Adidas's first ambassador. His success became synonymous with the brand, and his involvement with Adidas would be remembered as one of the key moments in the company's history. While the world watched Owens break records, they were also learning about Adidas shoes, which were helping him achieve his extraordinary feats. For Adolf, this was just the beginning. As Owens' performance continued to inspire, Adolf sought more opportunities to work with athletes from around the world. This first major endorsement marked the point where Adidas became more than just a manufacturer of shoes. It became a global brand with a growing network of athletes who trusted and believed in the products. Jesse Owens' success was the spark Adidas needed to go from a small company in post-war Germany to a global contender in the sportswear industry. The foundation had been laid, but the journey ahead would be filled with new challenges and victories. By the 1950s, Adidas had established itself as a trusted name in athletics. But Adolf knew that to secure Adidas's future, he needed to make a strong push into football. Football, after all, was the world's most popular sport, and having a foothold in the game was key to global success. The company's big break came in 1954 when it struck a deal with the German national team for the World Cup. This partnership was pivotal. Adidas became the official supplier of shoes for the German national team during the 1954 World Cup. The team went on to win the tournament, and Adidas's shoes played a crucial role in their victory. The victory was not just a sports achievement. It was a marketing triumph for Adidas. The German team's success in Adidas gear was a clear signal to the world that Adidas shoes were the best for football. As Adidas's visibility in football grew, the company began to expand its reach to clubs and individual players. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, Adidas was providing shoes for some of the world's best footballers, including Pele, Franz Beckenbauer, and Alfredo Di Stefano. These players became some of the most recognizable faces of the brand, helping solidify Adidas's presence in the football world. Adidas's involvement in football didn't stop with players. The company also began sponsoring football tournaments and events, ensuring that Adidas remained at the forefront of the sport's global growth. By aligning itself with the world's best athletes and events, Adidas became synonymous with football excellence. Every time a top player wore Adidas, it reinforced the brand's reputation as the best in the business. By the time the 1960s rolled around, Adidas had become a household name in football, not only in Germany, but around the world. The brand's shoes were seen on the feet of top players in major leagues and tournaments. Adidas had successfully positioned itself as the brand of choice for football, and the sport was now forever tied to the company. Adidas's dominance in football wasn't just about performance, it was about building a legacy. The company was no longer just a brand. It had become a symbol of football greatness, and it would remain intertwined with the sport for generations to come. Innovation has always been at the heart of Adidas, and it was innovation that allowed the brand to stay ahead of its competitors. From the very beginning, Adolf Dassler was determined to create shoes that were not only functional, but also groundbreaking. The introduction of screw-in studs for soccer shoes in the 1950s marked one of the company's most significant innovations. Before this, players had to rely on fixed studs that were often unsuitable for different playing conditions. The screw-in studs allowed players to adjust their footwear, giving them better traction on various surfaces and making Adidas shoes more versatile than ever. Another major innovation that set Adidas apart was the development of performance-enhancing footwear. Adolf and his team were constantly looking for ways to improve athletes' performance, and the shoes they created were designed to do just that. Whether it was lightweight materials, better grip, or improved comfort, every new design had one goal: to make athletes faster, stronger, and more competitive. Adidas understood that footwear wasn't just about style, it was about making a tangible difference in the performance of the athletes who wore it. Adidas also made strides in creating shoes for other sports, including track and field, basketball, and tennis. The brand's commitment to innovation extended beyond football, and Adidas became the go-to brand for athletes in all kinds of sports. Their shoes were used by sprinters, basketball players, and tennis stars, each of whom relied on the brand's cutting-edge designs to give them an edge on the field or court. Adidas had become the brand that athletes trusted to help them perform at their best. The company also began experimenting with new materials in the 1960s and 1970s. Adidas was one of the first brands to introduce lightweight synthetic materials that made shoes more durable and comfortable. These innovations not only helped athletes perform better, they also made Adidas shoes more appealing to consumers. Adidas was ahead of its time, always looking for ways to improve its products and meet the evolving needs of athletes. As the 1960s progressed, Adidas began experimenting with more advanced cushioning and shock absorption technologies. The company's footwear was no longer just about performance. It was about comfort and injury prevention as well. This was a crucial development in the sportswear industry, and Adidas continued to lead the way with each new design. By the time the 1970s arrived, Adidas had established itself as the leader in sports footwear innovation. From screw-in studs to lightweight performance-enhancing designs, the company's commitment to innovation ensured that it remained the top choice for athletes worldwide. Adidas wasn't just about making shoes, it was about making the future of sport. In 1948, after the split with his brother Adolf, Rudolf Dassler found himself at a crossroads. The company he had built with Adolf was now a distant memory, and he was determined to prove that he could stand on his own. He set out to create a new brand, one that would rival the very company he helped create. And so, Puma was born. Rudolf's vision for the brand was clear. He wanted to build a company that focused on innovation, athlete endorsements, and competition. Rudolf was driven by a fierce desire to build something even bigger than what he and Adolf had achieved together. He wasn't content with simply replicating what they had done. He wanted to redefine the world of sports footwear. He focused on speed and agility, designing shoes that would help athletes reach their peak performance. Puma's first logo, a leaping puma, reflected this spirit of energy and movement. It was a symbol of power, agility, and strength, the very qualities Rudolf wanted his brand to represent. Unlike his brother Adolf, Rudolf was not afraid to take risks. He immediately began looking for ways to set Puma apart from the competition. He sought out the best athletes, offering them exclusive contracts and partnerships. This was not just about making shoes. It was about creating a brand that athletes trusted and wanted to be associated with. Puma's athletes were seen as the brand's ambassadors, showcasing the company's dedication to performance. As the company grew, Rudolf placed a heavy emphasis on product innovation. He understood that to compete with Adidas, Puma had to offer something different, something that could make a difference on the field. His first major innovation was a soccer boot that was lighter, more flexible, and offered better traction than anything else on the market. Puma's products quickly gained attention, and the company began to carve out a space for itself in the competitive world of sports footwear. Rudolf's ability to attract top athletes became one of Puma's strongest selling points. He signed deals with players who were already legends in the making, such as Owens and Eusebio, helping to elevate the brand's status in football. The athletes wearing Puma weren't just competitors, they were the best in the world. Puma's success was tied directly to its athletes, and the company's rapid growth was a testament to Rudolf's vision and ambition. While Puma was still in its early days, Rudolf was already thinking about the future. He understood that to succeed in the long term, Puma had to go beyond just sports. He knew that if he wanted the brand to be more than a fleeting trend, he had to expand Puma's presence beyond the field. His innovative designs, athlete partnerships, and aggressive marketing strategies were just the beginning of what would soon become a global powerhouse. In the lead-up to the 1970 World Cup, an event that would change the history of football, a pact between Adidas and Puma was made. Both companies agreed not to sign a deal with Pele, the most famous footballer in the world, fearing that a bidding war for his endorsement would be too expensive. However, in a bold move that would go on to define the rivalry between the two companies, Puma broke the pact and signed Pele. Pele's decision to wear Puma boots during the 1970 World Cup was a gamble that paid off. At the time, he was not just a player, he was a global icon. His involvement with Puma gave the brand an unparalleled level of visibility and credibility. As Pele played on the world's biggest stage, his iconic moments wearing Puma boots were broadcast to millions of viewers, ensuring that Puma's name would be forever linked to the greatness of football. Puma's decision to break the pact was not without controversy. Many people believed that Pele should have signed with Adidas, given the company's long-standing presence in the sport. But by the end of the World Cup, it was clear that Puma's gamble had paid off. Pele's association with the brand made him a living symbol of Puma's quality and innovation. It was a victory for Puma, but it also deepened the divide between the two brothers. This move set the stage for Puma to become a major player in the global football market. Not only did they have Pele, but they also had the trust of many other footballers who were eager to sign with a brand that had proven its worth. The World Cup proved that Puma was more than just a competitor to Adidas. It was a force to be reckoned with. And while Adidas may have had the edge in terms of history and size, Puma now had the world's most famous footballer on its side. The Pele Pact was a pivotal moment for Puma. It marked the brand's entry into the global spotlight, elevating its reputation and influence within the football world. Pele's success in Puma boots helped the brand cement its place in the hearts of football fans worldwide. Puma had successfully broken through the shadow of Adidas and proven that it could stand on its own as a major player in the world of sportswear. Rudolf's gamble paid off. Pele was not just a star on the field, he was a symbol of Puma's commitment to innovation, performance, and excellence. The brand's association with Pele would continue to be a key part of its identity, and Puma would go on to sign more athletes and expand its reach in the years to come. The 1970 World Cup was the beginning of Puma's rise as a true competitor to Adidas on the global stage. One of the key factors that set Puma apart from its competitors was its commitment to innovation. Rudolf Dassler understood that the best way for Puma to compete with Adidas was to offer something truly different, products that would give athletes an advantage on the field. The company's first major innovation was the lightweight Puma soccer boot. Designed for maximum agility, the boots were made with flexible materials that allowed players to move faster and more comfortably. In addition to the boots, Puma was also one of the first brands to focus on track shoes that improve speed and performance. These shoes featured advanced cushioning systems, making them more comfortable and giving athletes the support they needed during intense training and competition. Puma's early designs were a direct challenge to Adidas's dominance in sports footwear, and the company quickly gained a reputation for creating shoes that were not only stylish, but functional. Puma's commitment to technology also extended to its collaboration with other brands. In the 1960s, Puma developed a range of performance-enhancing footwear that included features like shock absorption and lightweight materials. These advancements helped Puma make a name for itself as a leader in sports technology. Athletes who wore Puma shoes began to notice a difference in their performance, which further solidified the brand's reputation as a trusted partner for serious competitors. Puma's focus on customization was another key factor in its success. The company offered athletes the ability to adjust their shoes to fit their specific needs. Whether it was changing the length of the studs on soccer cleats or modifying the fit of running shoes, Puma gave athletes the flexibility to optimize their footwear for their sport. This level of customization was something Adidas had yet to match, giving Puma a unique edge. The company's commitment to innovation was also evident in its marketing and branding strategies. Rudolf understood the importance of creating a strong identity for the brand. He was one of the first to use athletes as brand ambassadors, ensuring that Puma's message was associated with success and performance. Puma's innovative products, combined with its focus on athlete endorsement, helped the brand rise quickly in the global market. Innovation remained at the heart of Puma's strategy for decades. The company's focus on creating products that met the needs of athletes, combined with its aggressive marketing and brand development, helped Puma become one of the top sportswear brands in the world. Puma's early innovations laid the foundation for its future success and set the company apart from its competitors. Puma didn't just want to dominate the sports world, it wanted to become a part of popular culture. By the 1980s, Puma had already established itself as a leader in the world of sports footwear. But Rudolf's vision for the brand went beyond the field. He wanted Puma to become a fashion statement, not just a performance brand. This shift in focus helped Puma appeal to a new generation of consumers who were looking for products that could bridge the gap between sport and lifestyle. The company's partnership with music and pop culture icons in the 1980s helped solidify its place in the fashion world. Run DMC, one of the most influential hip-hop groups of the era, famously wore Puma sneakers in their music videos and public appearances. This partnership turned Puma's sneakers into a symbol of street fashion, reaching beyond sports and into the broader cultural conversation. Puma shoes became a status symbol, worn by people who wanted to express their identity and style. Puma's entry into the fashion world was not just about aligning with musicians, it was about creating a lifestyle brand. The company began producing sneakers that were as much about style as they were about function. With bold designs and iconic logos, Puma shoes became a go-to choice for those looking to combine athletic wear with everyday fashion. This shift allowed Puma to reach a wider audience and build a loyal following that extended beyond athletes. The 1990s and 2000s saw Puma continue to evolve, with the company collaborating with designers like Rihanna and Kanye West to create exclusive collections that blended high fashion with athletic wear. These partnerships pushed the brand further into the realm of luxury fashion, while still maintaining its connection to sports. Puma's ability to adapt to changing cultural trends helped it stay relevant in a fast-moving industry. Puma's success in the fashion world was a direct result of its ability to stay true to its roots while evolving with the times. By embracing the intersection of sports and lifestyle, Puma was able to build a brand that appealed to athletes and non-athletes alike. Its iconic sneakers became a staple of street style, and its partnerships with celebrities helped propel the brand to new heights. In the end, Puma's journey from a sports brand to a global fashion icon showed that it was much more than just a competitor to Adidas. It was a company that understood how to evolve with the times, embracing both innovation and culture to create something truly unique. Puma's cultural impact extended far beyond its shoes. From the streets of New York City to the football fields of Europe, Puma became a brand that represented more than just athletic performance. It was a symbol of style, rebellion, and individuality. The company's collaborations with musicians, athletes, and designers helped cement its place in global culture, and Puma's influence would continue to grow as it embraced new trends and cultural shifts. The brand's success in the urban fashion scene was particularly important in the 1980s and 1990s. As hip-hop and street culture exploded, Puma's association with these movements gave the brand a strong identity. Puma shoes, once just for athletes, became a symbol of self-expression. The rise of streetwear culture meant that Puma was no longer just a sports brand. It was a lifestyle brand that was embraced by youth around the world. Puma's involvement in fashion wasn't just about shoes. It was about creating experiences. The brand's sponsorship of major events like the World Cup and the Olympics helped it maintain its presence in the sports world, but its collaborations with fashion designers like Rihanna and Stella McCartney opened new doors. Puma was now a brand for everyone, from athletes to fashion-forward trendsetters. Its ability to navigate both worlds made it one of the most versatile and influential brands in the industry. Puma's impact on youth culture cannot be understated. Its shoes, worn by athletes, musicians, and everyday people, became symbols of youth rebellion and identity. The brand spoke to a generation that valued authenticity, creativity, and individual expression. Puma wasn't just about products, it was about making a statement. As Puma's cultural impact grew, the brand continued to innovate. Its collaborations with fashion icons and its ability to stay ahead of the curve in both sports and fashion allowed it to thrive. Puma had successfully built a brand that resonated with multiple generations, becoming a part of the fabric of global culture. The story of Puma is a testament to the power of innovation, ambition, and the ability to adapt to an ever-changing world. What started as a small company, founded by a brother, seeking to make his mark, grew into a global brand that not only competed with Adidas, but also became an integral part of pop culture. Puma's cultural influence continues to this day, proving that it's more than just a brand, it's a legacy. Herzogenaurach, a small town in Germany, became a living testament to the intense rivalry between Adidas and Puma. When the Dassler brothers split in 1949, the town was caught in the middle. As the headquarters of both companies grew, so did the divide. The local population found themselves separated, not just by work, but by loyalty to one brand or the other. Adidas and Puma were more than just employers. They were symbols of identity, pride, and status. The townspeople became deeply connected to their chosen brand. The distinction between Adidas and Puma wasn't just about shoes. It was woven into the fabric of daily life. Families, friendships, and even marriages were often defined by which company you worked for. Local events and sports games would see Adidas and Puma employees forming rival teams. their competitive spirit extending beyond the workplace and into every corner of town life. As the rivalry intensified, Herzogenaurach became divided between the two brands, creating a sense of us versus them. On every street, in every pub, people could tell which side you were on by the shoes you wore. Even children inherited their family's allegiances, and the divide continued across generations. In fact, it wasn't uncommon for children to grow up with a strong sense of loyalty to the brand their parents worked for. This fierce loyalty extended into the social fabric of the town. Children often went to different schools based on which brand their family worked for, creating a divide that carried over into the sports clubs and other community events. Herzogenaurach became a microcosm of the global competition between Adidas and Puma, where the rivalry influenced everything from who you cheered for to which neighborhood you lived in. The divide was more than just a business rivalry, it was a personal one. The town was a constant reminder of the brothers' broken relationship. The street names, the workplaces, and even the team sports became battlegrounds where the two companies competed for dominance. The people of Herzogenaurach carried the weight of the Dassler brothers' feud with them every day, their personal lives intertwined with the future of the brands. Despite the rivalry, the town's identity became inseparable from the two companies. Herzogenaurach's story is forever linked to the Dassler brothers, their dream, their ambition, and their split that changed the landscape of sports footwear. The legacy of this family feud continues to affect the town to this day, with both Adidas and Puma remaining rooted in the town that witnessed the birth of their rivalry. The rivalry between Adidas and Puma didn't stay confined to Herzogenaurach. It soon became a global phenomenon. As both companies expanded beyond Germany, their rivalry spread to markets around the world, shaping sports culture, sneaker culture, and the very idea of athlete endorsements. Both brands saw early on that athletes were the perfect partners to market their products. The athletes wearing their shoes were not just endorsing a product. They were telling the world about the brand's quality and prestige. Adidas was the first to realize the power of athlete endorsements, signing legends like Jesse Owens, Franz Beckenbauer, and Stan Smith. Adidas understood that associating with the best athletes was a way to build a reputation for excellence and performance. Owens' triumph at the 1936 Olympics, wearing Adidas shoes, put the company on the map, and that success helped them attract more top-tier athletes in the decades to come. Puma, however, had its own marketing genius. Rudolf Dassler's focus on innovation extended to how he marketed Puma's products. The Pele pact in 1970, when Puma famously broke a pact with Adidas to sign Pele for the World Cup, was a game changer. Pele, then the world's most famous footballer, was an unparalleled symbol of success, and Puma's decision to sign him paid off in a big way. As Pele led Brazil to a World Cup victory wearing Puma boots, the brand's image was transformed. Puma's bold move helped establish it as a serious rival to Adidas and positioned Pele as the face of the brand. Both companies tapped into the power of global sports events to market their products, using football's World Cup and the Olympics as platforms to showcase their innovations. The use of athletes to create emotional connections with consumers became a driving force for both Adidas and Puma. The idea was simple. If the world's best athletes wore these shoes and succeeded, so too would the people who wore them. By the 1980s, both brands began to extend their marketing strategies beyond sports. Puma turned to hip-hop culture, securing its place in street fashion through collaborations with musicians like Run DMC. Meanwhile, Adidas capitalized on its sports heritage while expanding into lifestyle products, focusing on athleisure and broader fashion markets. Both companies understood that their brand wasn't just for athletes anymore. It was for everyone, from kids to fashion icons to casual consumers. The global marketing battle between Adidas and Puma shaped the very idea of sports culture and brand loyalty. The fierce competition drove both companies to continuously innovate, not just in their products, but in their marketing tactics. What started as a local rivalry in Herzogenaurach evolved into a marketing war that spanned the globe. Today, both brands remain two of the biggest names in the world, and their marketing strategies continue to influence the sportswear industry. While the Dassler brothers may have parted ways in 1949, the war between Adidas and Puma never really stopped. The two companies have been in a continuous battle for dominance in sportswear and brand prestige, even as their paths have diverged in some ways. From sponsorships to product innovations, the rivalry has remained fierce, with each company working hard to stay ahead of the other. In the world of athlete endorsements, both brands continue to compete for the world's top athletes. From football superstars like Lionel Messi, Adidas, Usain Bolt, Puma, both companies fight for the athletes who can help elevate their brands. Their contracts are not just about financial compensation, they are about public identity. Athletes today still wear their sponsors' shoes with the knowledge that their success is also a reflection of the brand they represent. The rivalry has also played out through technological innovations. Adidas has consistently led in developing new footwear technologies, such as its Boost technology for cushioning and Prime Knit for seamless design. These innovations have set new standards for comfort and performance. Puma, however, has not been far behind. The company has focused on creating lightweight, flexible designs that cater to modern athletes. Puma's dedication to speed and agility through innovations like the Speed Cell technology and their partnership with Formula One shows their continuous drive to challenge Adidas in every way. The competition extends beyond product development to retail spaces and ad campaigns. The brands constantly launch new product lines and adverts that challenge each other, particularly when one brand introduces a breakthrough product or celebrity endorsement. Each release is part of an ongoing war for market share and consumer loyalty. The fight for the best athlete, the most cutting-edge technology, and the best brand image remains relentless. Despite the fierce competition, there are signs that both Adidas and Puma have begun to realize that their rivalry can coexist with collaboration. Puma, while maintaining its distinct identity, has begun embracing sustainable practices and eco-friendly production, ideas that Adidas has pioneered. In certain markets, there's even room for both companies to flourish, and the growing demand for athleisure apparel offers new opportunities for both brands. But the rivalry remains strong in the sponsorships and innovations that have defined both brands for decades. Today, Adidas and Puma continue to compete with each other in every way imaginable, whether through product development, endorsements, or marketing. The battle, though no longer as personal as it once was, continues to shape the landscape of the global sportswear industry. Though they have long been separated, the legacy of Adidas and Puma remains intertwined. What began as a family rivalry has shaped the sportswear industry in ways the Dassler brothers could never have imagined. Today, both companies are not only among the most successful in the world, they are institutions in the sports, fashion, and marketing industries. Adidas has continued to grow into a global leader with a strong focus on football, athleisure, and innovative technology. The company's association with top athletes and sports teams has made it a household name. Meanwhile, Puma, though smaller, has carved out a unique space in the world of fashion and lifestyle. It has successfully tapped into the cultural zeitgeist, especially through collaborations with hip-hop artists and high-fashion designers. Both brands have evolved beyond their original sports roots to become much more. Symbols of personal identity and culture. The rivalry between the two companies continues to shape the future of the industry, even as their relationship has evolved. What started as a business dispute has turned into a global phenomenon, one that influences everything from athletic performance to street style. The Dassler legacy is no longer just about two brothers. It's about two companies that continue to shape and define the world of sports, fashion, and beyond. Despite the fractures in their relationship, the Dassler brothers' vision has lived on through their brands. Both Adidas and Puma have become cultural icons. The company's rise from a small German town to global giants is a testament to the power of vision, innovation, and competition. Though their paths diverged, both companies have continued to thrive and shape the world around them. The legacy of the Dassler brothers is defined by more than just their rivalry. It's about the brands they created, the innovations they pushed forward, and the way they forever changed the world of sportswear. Today, Adidas and Puma remain two of the biggest names in the world, forever tied to the brothers' ambition, vision, and rivalry. Their story is far from over,